Hello, YouTube. My allergies are a little bit bad during this season, so I'll try not to sneeze. If I have to sneeze, you probably won't hear it because I have to drop the microphone every time I sneeze. But we're gonna get started. We're gonna get started in the chapter of Genesis. This is gonna be a really fun podcast read through. We're gonna go through every chapter in the entire Bible, one chapter at a time. I'm hoping that we don't take too long on these chapters so that I can go through and truly, really, really, truly, like, break them down, but you know, maybe even opportunity wise, get more than one video out per day, more than one chapter out per day. Because I was trying to get these out during the night, but my family's very active at night, and my mom likes watching shows, and so I didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want this spirit to be lingering elsewhere and not in the room. And so here we are. Let's go through. Um, Before we start, I just want to say I think this is a very important prayer. Keep it in your heart. I need more people around the world to pray for Jesus to find the lost sheep, because Jesus will come back when we've found every lost sheep. I'm pretty sure. It could take 10 years, like that one high IQ person said. Um, or it could take less time. Okay, let's go through. I'm just going to start right off the bat with the verses. I don't want to go through the chapter introduction or the chapter summary until we get into chapter 2. Um, yeah, let's do it. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Think for a moment about creation, how powerful it is. Humans don't create. I want you to learn this now and today. Humans don't create, they invent with what is already created. Matter is already there for us, but for God, He can create it. He can materialize matter out of nowhere. He creates it. Verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. I saw a I'll be really brief with this, but I saw a vision of God moving upon the face of turbulent waters, and they calmed. Um, Very brief, yeah. Verse 3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. A lot of humans theorized the Big Bang was based off of this scripture. Let there be light, and light illuminated the universe and created everything. Um, I don't know what I think about the Big Bang Theory. I'm I'm a little bit tipsy on it, controversial on it. I do believe it to a certain extent, but there's always room for error in human theory, and I believe that um I believe that creation from nothing doesn't really make sense. And so and that's what the Big Bang argues for, is creation from basically nothing or almost nothing except light. And yeah, that's what I'll say about that. And when he says, and in that verse, in verse 3 Genesis, when it says, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and you don't get context until you go into verse 4. So we'll go into verse 4. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. So maybe I'm being a little bit too skeptical, because this is where he separates light from darkness, and that they're different elements. And so maybe this is like the creation story. This is like the beginning. I think it could make a lot of sense. There's a lot of people on this planet, so. And we're going to go into verse 5. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. See, now this is where we go back into my skepticism on what the light is in the context of this scripture. When you go into verse 5, you get the context that it's actually the sun. It's actually the light that pertains to our solar system, meaning the light was already there and God had it, and God used it, and God created. So that's where I get a little bit skeptical. But verse 5 says, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And verse 6, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, let it divide the waters from the waters. This one is a little bit tricky. I'm not sure what to think about it. I might look it up later, but we're going to keep going. Verse 7, and God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. So this is where I'm thinking firmament means waves, but there's a footnote here, firmament, and it goes into Moses chapter 2 verse 6, and we're going to read through those verses really quick. Moses chapter 2 verse 6, 7, and 8. It says, and again I, God, said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, and it was so. And as I spake, and I said, let it divide the waters from the waters, and it was done. And I, God, made the firmament, and divided the waters, yea, the great waters under the firmament from the waters, which were above the firmament. And it was so, even as I spake. And I, God, called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Okay, so this is where I theorize a little bit, and I assume that the firmament actually means a separation from water in its three different forms. Water being clouds, water being solid ice, and water being water. And the heavens being separated from the ocean. So I think we answered that question. Let's go on to verse 8 of Genesis. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Beautiful. The days pass on. Let's continue. Verse 9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. So, in this verse, it's really powerful because God raises up earth out of the water, dry land, and it becomes dry land. So here's something interesting about this Genesis creation story. In Genesis, you get the water, you get the land, and there's no space stage where you have this dusty rock with nothing on it, and you don't have like this long period of time where somehow by a miracle of chance you just get, you don't have that scientific explanation where you get that like that lucky chance of a rock holding the material for biological life. You don't I don't know. In this Genesis creation story, you just have God creating the earth as it is now, which is something different. It's so different. It makes me theorize that the dinosaurs could have been living in the Garden of Eden, and that there was an earth there as it was before the flood. Anyways, And we're going to go into verse 10. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called he seas. And God saw it was good. See, like he's creating the earth with water and earth. So, and people theorize that this could have taken millions of years, but that's from a human perspective. God is so powerful and God is so infinite that I theorize that he could have created the earth so fast. I think God is working really hard. And we're going to go into verse 11. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. So this is almost the creation of the Garden of Eden itself, because this is before Noah and his ark reach dry land. This is before humans can eat meat. They can only eat seed and fruit. And we're going to go into verse 12. And the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And we're going to go into verse 13. And the evening and the morning were the third day. So God could have, like, we could think about this with the pagan days that we have now, but I wonder how days appear to God. What a day is in the life of an angel. How that passes by. Could have taken a long time, could have taken a short amount of time. We just don't know how the infinities work. That's all up to theory. And verse 14. And God said, "Let there be light in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years." Okay. See, this is where I get a little confused, and it makes maybe a little more sense that it would be that God separates the light. God creates stars in the heaven, and that's the first lights he creates. And then God creates earth and water. And in verse 14, where he's creating a light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day and the night, that could be the sun that I was looking for signs, seasons, days, and years. So this is where I think if the word day is appearing in that verse, part of that season, that God's day could be the same as ours, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll move on. That's very interesting. It's very thought provoking. Verse 15. And let them be for the lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. I'm going to have to read that again because there's a lot to take in here. And let them be for the lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. Okay, so now it's starting to make sense. We go back through those first verses, and God is creating elements. He's creating earth, he's creating water, he's creating light and darkness, and now he's putting it all together. So in verse 14, he separates light from the earth, water and earth, the dry land and water of the earth. He separates that with the sun. In verse 14, you get the sun. And you move onward, then he puts the stars in the sky. So verse 15, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. That's where he's putting stars in the sky for us to see. And yeah, we're going to move on. Verse 16. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. So you go into verse 16, and it kind of mirrors 14. We're going to have to go back to 14 for a second here, because in verse 14 it says, And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Okay, so that's stars, and let them, in verse 15, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. That's a description of verse 14. Okay, so verse 14 is stars, and verse 16 is where he creates the sun and moon. Okay, this is making sense. So we're reading through slowly because then you get a bigger picture, a better picture of how it all works. So we're going to go into verse 16 again. No, we're going to go into verse 17. And God set them into the heaven of the, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. So it's almost like in these verses, he creates those elements and then he sets them into place, which is really cool. A lot of science believes that those elements were just there where they were supposed to be. A lot, Einstein, one of the greatest intelligences on planet Earth, said energy can be neither created nor destroyed. But that only I'm not sure that that's completely true, because in these scripture verses, God is creating elements, he's creating the sun, and then in the following verse that we just read, he's placing the sun where it's supposed to go. So he makes the sun first, and then he puts it where it's supposed to go. And so we go into verse 18 now. And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Nice. So he could have created this all in human days, or it could be different. I'm theorizing that it's in human days. I'm actually very skeptical about aliens these days, and I believe that he could have created this all in a couple days because he's very powerful and very smart. He has a very infinite mind. God is powerful and infinite. We're going to go into verse 20. And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of the heaven. So now he's okay. This lines up with what the scientific theory was saying now, because it's saying the waters bring forth abundantly moving creature that hath life. So that's where the theories are starting to make sense. I won't be so skeptical now. It's always nice to take everything with a grain of salt, but you know, let's move on. Actually, I think that's really cool. We're gonna step into it a little bit for just a second. I think it's really beautiful that God creates life from out of the water. Life from what some would call basically nothing. And it's it makes me think that God's days are different than ours, which would make sense because God is not finite like us. So, all right. And God created whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. See, now this is where you wonder if I don't know. I'm being stupid with this, but this is where you wonder if dinosaurs really existed or if it was all a fake, if it was all a blunder. And I I'm just being stupid because we have fossil fuels. We use gasoline and stuff, so petroleum, all of that. And that's basically ancient life that turned into a, a gas that we can use. And so um we're going to move past that. And we're going to go into verse 22 now. And God blessed them, saying, Be ye fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. So, um, so it's like this is all in a day, a God's day though. So it could have taken time. I don't know if it's about time or if it was fast. I like to theorize that it was fast and that God's days are actually faster than ours. But the spirit does work differently than the physical world. So um yeah, this is nice. They multiply, lots of creatures becoming plentiful. Verse 23, and the evening and the morning were the fifth day. Nice. So now we're on day 5. And God said, Let the earth, this is 24, verse 24. And God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. So this is almost God stepping back and letting creatures multiply, and this is it's very thought provoking because you start with whales and you start with birds. You don't start with dinosaurs in this creation story. It doesn't ever say like raptors or like some kind of biblical word for predators or so it's so interesting to think about. And it's like certain elements that I've learned in high school fit into this Genesis story and then certain elements don't. So it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. So we're gonna do verse 25 now. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind. Oh, we already did that. Verse 26. And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. It's interesting in this verse 26, he doesn't say, Let us make man in my image, because he's not selfish like that. He says, Let us create man in our image. It's very thought provoking, and it makes me go back and forth on some things that I'm very skeptical about. Um, but we are going to we're going to assume it's just it's just God creating man in his image. And that's what it should be. Um And mankind, this is before Noah and his his family get onto dry land, and God gives them a reward. Before that reward, animals lived peaceably with Adam and Eve. They weren't scared of humanity, they weren't scared of humans. So we're going to go into verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. So this is where I like to get a little bit creative, and because in verse 26 he creates man, but in verse 27 he creates them male and female. So man wasn't a gender before verse 27. So he creates the species and then he separates them by gender. So this is where I believe that, gender roles are very important, of course, because God created them. But at the very beginning of creation that's when it didn't matter. That's when gender didn't matter. For a brief moment in the creation story, you could be whatever gender you wanted because there was no gender before God separated the gender of humanity. Isn't that interesting? To think about that is thought it's invigorating almost. It's it's cool to figure out. I almost want to memorize that, but we're going to keep going. Verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So this is where God first speaks unto Adam and Eve, mankind. He blesses them. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree which is the fruit thereof yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. It's interesting how that verse 29, uses meat. Sorry. Allergies. We're going to keep going. Verse 30. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. So, God gave every creature on the earth, besides the fish, herbs to eat, and they gave Adam and Eve the fruit of the tree to eat. So it was almost like a special benefit to be human to eat the fruit off the trees because the creatures of the earth could not eat of the fruit of the trees is what it's showing here. Or I mean it didn't say that they could not, but they were given herbs to eat instead of the fruit of the trees and the seeds. And so we're going to go into verse 31. This is the last verse of Genesis chapter 1, and it says, And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So now we have completed Genesis chapter 1. You could probably the nice thing about going through these chapters slowly like this is that we really digest and break apart each chapter, and we get to analyze and theorize and truly appreciate the gospel in every one of these chapters. So thank you for listening. This is Genesis chapter 1 that we just finished. I'm very happy with the pace that we had with this video. I will be able to make 2 videos a day most likely, because it only took us 30 minutes to get through chapter 1 of Genesis, despite my rambling. And it's not all rambling, you know. We have deep thought and deep conversation, and so it's really special and it's really nice. And so thank you for watching this video. We're going to head into Genesis chapter 2 in the next video, and I'm going to link it right here so that we can keep going in Genesis.